Check.
Trust me. Thank you, though. Good morning, everybody. Good. It's great to see you guys again. Good morning. Good morning. Yeah. Hey, for the young ones. You like that? Huh? Yeah. Hey, my name is Manny. I want to say good morning and welcome. Forward Point. We all strive on finding purpose, and we know that we thrive when we tap into that purpose, and that's what we're here to help each other do. So if you want to dive and find your purpose or love Syracuse as much as we do, thank you for coming, and you're more than welcome. My name is Manny. Buenos dias. Good morning. Konnichiwa. Hallelujah. God is good. That just came out of nowhere. So this morning we're gonna have a small icebreaker, just like last week, and it's nailed it or failed it. Nailed it or failed it. Jumping into a pool can be so much fun. You decide if these jumpers nail it or fail it. Yeah, he nailed it, America. I like his shorts. I love his shorts. I think he nailed it. I think he did it. Yeah, here we go. Failed. We got some nails, some fails. Oh! Hey, I thought it. That was so horrible. I hope she nails it. I hope she nails it, not in front of her classmates. She nailed it. Oh! Sorry. I did not expect that. She failed it. That was intense. I thought she was going to get it, to be honest. I don't know. He failed it. Great job, buddy. See? Somebody got it. Oh, I don't know. That release looks a little bit fishy. I think he failed it. Oh, that was painful. That looked painful. That looked extremely painful. Oh, that's a bad idea. Whether he gets it or not, it's a bad idea. Oh, he nailed it. That's a little iffy. I don't know. No distance. No airtime. Oh, no. Ah! Oh, we were wrong. I'm glad he got it. He nailed it. Oh, she failed it. Sorry. There was no point in playing. That was just a bad idea. Thank you guys for playing. Hey, if this is your first time, we would love for you to text welcome to 315-883-2213. We have a small gift, a coffee mug, that you could receive at the back at the info center. We would love to give it to you. Please feel free. Yes. You know what? Text welcome. Favorite, just text welcome and ask. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Now we're gonna go to a promo clip. Oh wait, you know what? I think I just jumped ahead. Oh, so we have a new series and it's called At the Movies. Roll the clip, Jimmy. Whoa. Oh, great movie. Great movie. Oh, that looks great. So yeah, that's going to be our next series, At the Movies. Which is funny, I quoted, what was that last movie? Who knows what that last movie was? Elf. I quoted Elf this morning in the car because my wife was eating Elf and Frozen. So she was eating this graham cracker because she wants us to be healthy. But I got my...
We're gonna do a new song for everyone here. Called The Answer. So many questions. Here we go. So many questions. The world is reaching. So many hurting. So many lost. With all the striving, who can we lean on? Creation's crying out from the dark. Here we go. I know the answer to every question, the one solution to every fear. I know my help and where it comes from. Jesus, He is the answer. He sees our sadness. He sees our sadness. He feels our sorrow. And we know weakness. He is strong. He holds the weight of all of our failings. Great is our sin, but greater the cross. I know the answer to every question, the one
still stands. Great is your faithfulness, faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never failed me yet. Sing with me, I know the night. I knew the night won't last. Your will come to pass. My heart will sing your praises again. Jesus, you're still enough. Keep me within your love. My heart will sing your praise again. Your promise still stands. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never say it again. Your promise still stands. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, no faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never failed me yet. You never failed me yet, Lord. Sing with me, I've seen you move. I've seen you move. You move the mountains, and I believe I see it to it again. You made a way where there is no way, and I believe I see it to it again. You see you move the mountains, and I believe I see it to it again. You made a way where there was no way, and I believe I see you move. I see you move. You move the mountains, and I believe I see it to it again. You made a way where there was no way, and I believe I see you move. I see you move. You move the mountains, and I believe I see it to it again. You made a way where there was no way, and I believe I see it to it again. See it to it again. See it to it again. I see it to it again. I see it to it again. Promise still stands. promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You'll never fail me. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You'll never fail me yet. Oh Lord, never fail me yet, Lord. I want to read you Psalms here. Psalm 36. David says, your unfailing love, O Lord, is as vast as the heavens, reaches beyond the clouds. Your righteousness is like the mighty mountains, your justice like the ocean depths. You care for people and animals alike. How precious is your unfailing love. All humanity finds shelter in the shadow of your wings. Thank you, God. Your promise still stands, 'cause great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You'll never fail me. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You've never failed. Your promise still stands. Your promise still stands. 'Cause great is your faithfulness, oh faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never fail. Your promise, one more time, your promise. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. 'Cause this is my confidence. You'll never fail me. Yes, Lord. Oh, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Yes, Lord. Thank you, God. Thank you, Lord. I don't know, I just feel compelled to do this. Anyone still have unanswered prayers right now? Like, show of hands. Unanswered prayers. You know, where you have something that God's put on your heart. Either God's spoken to you, you've either had a prophetic word, and you have an unanswered. You can keep that hand up there. I mean, every hand should probably be up anyway, but anyway, that's just me. But unanswered prayers. And you know what? The enemy comes to want to give you all those lies and say, you know what? That's a far gone conclusion. That won't happen. That was 10 years ago. That was a long time ago. That's not now. And yet, if you ever read the book of Hebrews and you read in chapter 11, it talks about people who had faith, even despite of when they went through their entire life. Maybe never even saw the promise. But God is faithful, church. He is faithful to his promises. Our confidence is that we are still in his hands. We don't give up. We have a hope. We are hope builders, hope dealers. Father, I thank you that your promises will still stand. And you are faithful. Your unfailing love is amazing. I pray we do have a chance to see the promises, but even if not, it is well with my soul. It is not. It is well with my soul. But you would speak, God. Your people would hear your voice. We'd fall in love with you, God. We would not give up. Because you've never failed us yet. Thank you, God. In Jesus' name, amen.
Good morning, Forward Point. How is everybody doing? I think I heard a congratulations there. Thank you so much. That is uber kind of you. I appreciate that. Some of you may or may not know what he's talking about. So to talk about the elephant in the room here, this week, little baby Litley Faith Doyle entered the world through normal means and processes. Pretty cool. She had a knot in her umbilical cord, which is pretty rare thing, so they let us keep it in this little jar. We have the umbilical cord with this knot. It's not like a loop, but it's a knot. So if you ever wanted to see what a what do they call it? Postpartum, right? Is after you give birth? Is that what it's called? Umbilical cord, come on over to the Doyle house, and we'll even let you touch it if you want. Just make sure you bring, it's right, bring your own hand sanitizer, and yeah, it's gonna be, she's really an angel. She, all sorts of good, warm feelings when she's happy. We did manage to take a picture of her when she's not so happy. She tends to get a little grumpy sometimes when she's hungry, but we're grateful for her to have arrived and for all the support, and Katrina, Mama Skinner, there's everyone who's helped us with food, and you've given us inspiration to have a baby right away again. So thank you so much for your taking care of us during this time, and it's been very helpful. Have you guys ever had a questionable interaction at a restaurant? Maybe you're talking to the server there, and you're not seeing things eye to eye, and they're kind of giving you that face like they're not really happy with you. And when the server is giving you that look like they're not really happy with you, what begins to go through your minds? What is going to be happening to my food, right? What kind of craziness am I going to find? Hopefully I don't even, if they do something, I don't even know about it, because it's better just not to even know than to find something of other human, maybe a umbilical cord knot in your food. I don't know. Maybe that would be something, the bodily function that would be part of. Yeah, you would know where that came from. Well, I saw the story this week in Queens, New York. This gentleman had an interesting meal where he must have had some kind of similar interaction with his server, and as a result, later on, he sees the receipt, and he sees this note on the receipt. And I don't know if that you can read it. It says, cheddar, well done, toasted bread, and then it says, please spit in it too. Right there on the receipt. Now, I don't know if this particular server just didn't, realize that was on the receipt, or that the person would pay attention to it, right? But obviously, the gentleman who received this receipt after the fact. He already ate his burger. He was quite distraught over the experience that he had, and it became national news as a result of what happened, right? But we all kind of have these experiences where we're left kind of wondering, man, what is happening now as the server leaves, or maybe you've been in some kind of customer service experience and they go in the back room and you wonder, what are they saying about me? What are they talking about? I wonder what is going on in their minds. At the Apple store in the mall, this kind of happens to me all the time. I work in the back in the customer service area, the Genius Bar, where we fix things that aren't working the way that they should. And sometimes customers come up with these different issues, and it's simple as, oh, you have this setting on. You're really stupid, but I don't say that, right? You just have this little setting checked, and that's why you're not receiving any notifications. Don't you feel silly, right? But we don't say that to their face. But sometimes, I have to tell them bad news, or I have to tell them something that, is silly like that, and as they walk away, I begin to wonder, as they come together as a couple or their family, what is it that they're talking or saying about me as they're walking away? We've just had this interaction, and I had to give them bad news, or I had to make them feel super silly for not knowing how to do that or control that particular setting. I wonder what it is that they're saying to me. Or conversely, on the opposite side, sometimes when I go in the back, I bring a phone or a computer, and I have to look at the inside. Sometimes I go in the back, and other people come in the back, and they just start talking immediately about their customer. Man, you should hear the customer that I'm with and what they're doing or how this happens, right? You kind of have this back hallway that you go into, and we have a keypad that you have to use to get into our break room and where we do repairs. So it's pretty easy to have conversations about our customers as we're walking back. And I hear it all the time. Different people in the sales floor, wherever you can imagine, come back, start complaining or talking about the weirdities or the oddities of their customers or the experiences that they're in. So I'm surrounded by it whenever I'm in the back, and I can't help but wonder what's going on as they leave, or what are they thinking we're talking about as we leave to go back. So we're in the middle of this series. We're wrapping it up today called My Big Fat Mouth. And if you've been here at all throughout the course of this series, you probably heard some of the things that I'm just going to review real quick. The first week, we just set the stage and talked about, there is such power in the words that we speak, and the things that come out of our mouth, right? The Bible says we have the power to bring life and the power to bring death just by the things that we say to each other. And out of the mouth, Jesus says, comes the abundance of our heart, right? The things that are going on in our heart, the true person that we really are, will be found out by the things that come out of our mouth. So the words that we use and the things that we say are super important. The first week we talked about this idea of complaining, right? And we said, if you can change your circumstances, then do it. Instead of just complaining about it and making excuses, if you can change your circumstances, then do something about it. Work harder, get up earlier, do whatever it is that you have to do and can do to change your circumstances. But sometimes you may find yourself in situations where you can't change your circumstances. So if you can't change your circumstances, then change your perspective. Maybe adjust the way that you are looking at things, the way that you're interpreting things, the way that you allow things to sink into your heart, into your mind. But you need to change your perspective and the way that you look at things. And then next week, we looked at this idea of criticizing, right? All of us at one point or another have probably assumed the role of critic, where we're making comments about other people. And the truth is that we have no idea how much criticism can hurt someone's heart. Not while we're saying it, but if you've ever been on the receiving end, then you know from experience how much it can hurt and bring pain, even for years, the different things that we say as criticism. But we also have no idea how God can use just a single word of encouragement in someone's life. So as a result, we want to go from, we don't want to be fault finders, people who are always looking at the negative or the bad things about people and situations, but we want to be, as Stephen even mentioned this morning, we want to be hope dealers, right? People who are constantly just dishing out hope to people that there's there's going to be a change. There's going to be something different. You're not alone. We want to be a bunch of hope dealers here in Syracuse. And then last week, Steve talked about this idea about lying, right? I'm sure none of us, I know I personally never dealt with lying before. But he talked about how, right, the enemy's plan is to get us to lie. And then it's to get us to lie to ourselves. And then we get to a place where we begin to live a lie. And the root reason that most of us find ourselves lying is because we're not completely trusting God in our lives. And he talked about this idea how we confess to God for forgiveness, but it's important. We still need the people around us for healing. And that's why we'll believe more than anything else that we believe life change happens in circles and not in rows. Right here we sit in rows and we get to hear things, but life change truly happens in life groups where we're in circles and we're talking about our life and how this applies. So if you're not in a life group, I'd encourage you, make sure you check out the life groups that we have and see which ones you can get plugged into, because that is where true life change begins to happen, in rows, in circles, and not in rows. And that brings us today where we're going to wrap things up with gossiping, right? This idea of gossiping. We all know somebody who gossips, right? Someone who kind of is always free-spirited, talking about everybody else but themselves, right? Anyone next to you, luckily I can't see because of the lights. No, like blue steel stares from across the room, like, I know it was you fit this to a T, right? But maybe, you've heard it recently around you, people talking, or maybe you have had some of that gossip stuff kind of coming out of your own mouth recently. In either case, I don't feel like it's too much of a stretch to say this is probably one of the most rampant issues in our culture, let alone even as followers of Jesus and in the church. Like I said, at Apple and in the back room, I hear it constantly. We not only have a break room, but there's another room that has its own additional keypad we call the genius room, the repair room. And this is where we do the repairs and we open things. And it's like they should be, instead of genius room, it should just say the gossip room. Because people feel like just because the door is closed, there's this freedom to talk about, right, whatever's going on in different people's lives in that room. Someone could come in and it's like immediately he stops and the conversation ends, and then they walk out and the door closes and the conversation immediately picks back up about that person. And it's just this constant ongoing thing. And why? Why is that? Right? Why is it that we feel the need or see this constant kind of talking about everybody else's story? And believe it or not, the Bible has some insight that we can glean from this topic of gossiping. So if you're taking notes, I would encourage you to take out your pen, your paper. If you're following along in the YouVersion app, you can follow us there and share some notes and verses that maybe stick out to you, or take some notes. I encourage you to do so. The first thing we see is in Proverbs, right? The wisest man who ever lived, we're going to find out, talks a lot about this idea of gossiping. He says this, he says, rumors are dainty morsels that sink deep into one's heart, all right? Now, I know we don't probably deep into one's heart. Right? How easy is it for us to be in conversation with someone and out of nowhere comes kind of this thought or this story about someone else that you're just kind of like dying to share. It's like, I just got to get this information out that I know, right? Maybe it's something that you saw on Facebook or you heard through the grapevine, or maybe you're probably still on MySpace. You saw their MySpace post or something, right? And it's not really your story to tell, but in this case, you got to get it out. Something has got to be done so what's going on is known. Or maybe you make some kind of commitment, that just begs for the other person to keep it to themselves. Someone shared in confidence with you something they're struggling with, an addiction, an issue in their marriage, right? Something in confidence, and just now kind of eating you up on the inside to get this out. And you wouldn't normally do this, but in this case, right, it's you're doing your civic duty to kind of share and get the burden off of yourself, and maybe as a result, right now we can pray better for this person, right? That's how Christians kind of justify it a lot of times. We got to be able to pray for brother so and so, right? So this is what's going on in their life, just so you know, to pray better for them. Dainty little morsels. Have you ever just tried to eat one, right? You can't do it. But when someone talks to you about someone, or you're talking about someone to someone else, and then it hurts. You've probably yourself been hurt by hearing some kind of rumor that got spread or story that was told about you that kind of came back, and now you're made aware of what's going on. People have been talking about you. When I was in 8th grade, I just transferred into Faith Heritage School. And, I was kind of in my rebellious years where I didn't really care much about authority or doing things, right. I just kind of, wanted it done my way or the highway. And there was this one girl who I started to like her. Her name was Tiffany. She was kind of like the cool cat of the 8th grade. She had those really big blonde bangs that you girls did back in the 90s, right? And she was like a foot taller than me. It was kind of a weird match, but somehow, love does not keep us apart when there's love, right? So it drew us together. But one of Tiffany's friends wrote this note in the middle of class that she started kind of passing it around in the middle of class. Now, she chose to pass it around in one of the classes where the teacher was probably the strictest of the entire school, right? So imagine yourself being a strict teacher and you see a note being passed around. What do? You take the note and you just don't put it on the desk. You don't just, throw it away. What do you do to really inflict some pain to teach a lesson here about passing notes? Let's read it aloud. I mean, why not? We're going to pause for a little station identification here and let's read this note. And what Tiffany's friend had written was she paired up all the different people in the class, right? So-and-so like so-and-so, and all the girls and who they like and the boys, and she had all the pairings there on this note. So you can imagine, being an 8th grade girl and this information becomes exposed publicly. There was great weeping and gnashing of teeth from all of these girls, right? And when I remember hearing about it, I'm like, man, who cares? That's right, I'm on the list, right? I'm next to Tiffany. And, this is a good day for us, but the girls are like, they want to kill this one girl, string her up alive, right? Because she wrote down all these other people's stories that weren't her own, and now the information became public, right? Gossip is not too far from that classic game of telephone, right? You ever play telephone as an example, or when you're a little kid, you say one thing, and by the time it gets to the end, it's like some kind of Russian phrase that no one understands. With each person's kind of rendition of the story, someone else's story, it tends to get more and more distorted, further and further away from the truth. And it's not just just because it's true does not mean that you should say it or have to say it. Everything you say should be true, but not everything true should be said. Nobody ever intends to hurt someone. We never set out to, man, this is my goal for today, is to see how many people I can cause to have to go to long-term counseling later on in their lives. But gossip hurts. And what we want to do this morning is look at the people that gossip can hurt. All right, so if you're taking notes, who does gossip hurt? The first thing here you're going to see is that gossip hurts the person it's spoken about. Gossip hurts the person it's spoken about. Again, the author of Proverbs says this: a troublemaker plants seeds of strife. Gossip separates the best of friends. Just by reading that verse, there are people come to mind that we all know exactly what this verse is talking about. Where we've relationships that have been separated. And maybe it was a friend, maybe it was a family member, somebody that you looked up to. Maybe it was your 8th grade crush who you can't even remember anymore. Or maybe it was, again, some kind of secret about your life that you confided, some kind of addiction or a poor choice you made, and now it's getting around. Maybe it was a struggle in your life or in your relationship, and now it's gotten around to your spouse, and now it's coming back to you, and it is not pretty. Gossip hurts the person it is spoken about. Second person that gets hurt is gossip hurts the listener. You say, what? Just from listening? Yes, look at what, the wisest person who ever lived says about gossip here in Proverbs. He says this, he says, wrongdoers eagerly listen to gossip, and liars pay close attention to slander. Right? Those are two things that I would not like my life to be characterized by, right? Being a wrongdoer or being a liar. And don't you think for a minute that when they are done talking to you, that they won't turn around and then start talking about you? The reality is this, in our lives, what we permit around us when someone is talking to you about someone else, what we permit to go on, we promote. Right? Whatever you permit in your life, you promote. You allow. You say that that's okay to happen if you permit it to go on around you. I permit the slander to go on in the repair room. So in essence, my confession is this morning, I'm promoting it with my inaction. Right? I may be quiet and not engage in the conversation, kind of on the other side of things, but I'm promoting it by my inaction, by my not standing up and saying, you know what, this is not right. As adults, as human beings, this is not how we should be talking about the people we work with, or the people we're trying to help. Gossip hurts the person it's spoken about, but gossip hurts the person listening as well. And then lastly this morning, when it comes to who does gossip hurts the speaker. Right? The person who is telling the story that's not their own to tell, it hurts them. Solomon says this in Proverbs, when arguing with your neighbor, don't betray another person's secret. Others may accuse you of gossip, and you will never regain your good reputation. Or you can spend a lifetime building your reputation, and all it takes is one act of gossip for all of it to come tumbling down and for people not to trust you anymore. How many stories are there of people who, making stuff up about someone and then they recant it, right? We hear about sexual, rape stories where people make up the story, and then the person who they accuse, life is destroyed and their credibility is forever destroyed. The damage has been done. Who has ever heard someone gossiping and fawn kind of over them, like, oh, how I wish I could be like them, right? The way that just the lies they tell about other people comes out of their mouth. They're my role model, right? None of us do that. But I will tell you, that's the way that we live, by these engaging in these tiny little morsels in our life. But I'll tell you, when you hear people talking that way about other people, there's a couple things that come to mind, all right? The first thing is, you, sir, whoever you're talking about, you have constipation of the mind and diarrhea of the mouth, right? You're welcome for that picture in your minds, okay? But hopefully that will help you as you begin to wrestle with this for yourself, right? We don't want to be those people who just, right, it doesn't seem like their minds are working, but they have no problem just speaking all sorts of words and about other people. The next thing I usually think about is, I wonder what you say about me when I'm not around you, right? We've all probably thought about that as people begin to tell us these stories about other people. I know I think about, man, when I hear these stories in the repair room, when I leave, what must they say about me now that I'm the latest person to walk in, right? And then I think about, man, I better be careful with what I say, because it's probably going to wind up someplace else. No, we don't want to be like those people. We don't want to be like them. In fact, when we talk badly about someone who is not present, it says a whole lot more about us than about the person that you're speaking about. Right? Gossip hurts the person that it is spoken about. It hurts the listener, but gossip also hurts the speaker. The truth is, gossip hurts everybody involved. Nobody comes out better on the other side of gossip. And at this point, my prayer is that you're sitting there and you're thinking that, man, this is not the person that I want to be. So how do I stop, right? None of us want to be this, but we all find ourselves dishing, going back for more little tiny morsels. So how do we stop? How do we, kind of push this gossip mentality out of our lives? And I believe there are some very simple things that we all can begin to do and to practice so we can be people, we can be a family, we can be a community free of this hurtful practice of gossip. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to be people who guard our ears. Right? What if I told you that we could stop gossip, all the hurt that it causes, by simply asking one question? Right? It may sound too good to be true, and your brain may already be running through, what on earth could be this question that could be the key. It's simply this: why are you telling me this? Right? As you begin to hear this story that someone's telling you, just ask them, why are you telling me this? Now, maybe, I wouldn't recommend saying it with sass or with attitude, right? Because you don't want to have any kind of confrontation. And if you're like me, you kind of, stray away from confrontation to begin with. So maybe we can rephrase it a little bit and make it not so harsh around the edges, right? Maybe you could say, well, why are you choosing to say this right now? Have you ever had the chance to talk to so-and-so about this? Right? Just ask them, have you had a chance to talk to Frank or to Susan about this story? And 9 out of 10 times the answer is probably going to be something like, you catch them off guard and they're going to say no, right? Because that kind of puts the fire out of why they're telling you to begin with. And then you go, well, why don't you start there first, right? Why don't you start with interacting and talking to that person about this story first? And the truth is, this amazing question, right? This idea of talking to the other person first, it's not rocket scientists. You may be thinking, man, Jimmy, you're so smart. Where did it come from that you would come up with these just sweet words? But it came from Jesus, right? Jesus said himself in Matthew, he set up this thing. He says, if another believer sins against you, what do? You go privately and point out the offense, right? You go to them first and you ask, hey, what's going on? What's going on in your life where this is happening? So when you ask that question, you are challenging them to go and to handle it the way that Jesus told us to handle our offenses. You're helping somebody be more like Jesus just by flipping it and turning it back on them. Why are you telling me this? Have you talked to Joe about this? We're going to guard our ears. So as we begin to hear things like this, we flip it away from us and back onto, hey, be like Jesus told us to be. Go and talk to them about what they did or what's going on. But even after we ask our question, you're going to have people who just won't close their big fat mouths, right? And the time may have arrived where you need to create some distance between you and them and begin to remove yourself from being around them as much. And that, again, is another principle that we find in the Bible. Solomon says, again, a gossip goes around telling secrets. So don't hang around with chatters. All right, we want to be people who guard our ears. Solomon tells us to be people who guard our ears and don't hang around those who just are vomiters of the mouth. And are just constantly looking to tell the latest story that they can. Be a people who close your mouth. The next way that we're going to stop gossip is by closing our mouth. Being people who close our mouths. I often heard it said, right, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth so you listen twice as much as you speak, right? Some of you need to tweet that to yourself, okay? This may be harder for you than for others, right? But to help, we're going to collectively memorize a verse together, right? When you think about having to close your mouth, For some of us, our mouths are a little more dropped than others. But we're going to memorize a verse here collectively, right? This verse is Proverbs 21. It says, watch your tongue and keep your mouth shut, and you will stay out of trouble. All right? Watch your tongue, keep your mouth shut, stay out of trouble. Say it with me. Watch your tongue, keep your mouth shut, stay out of trouble. Again, watch your tongue, keep your mouth shut, stay out of trouble. You guys got it? Can you say it? All right, now that the verse is off the screen, can you say it? Oh, you guys are beautiful people, beautiful. All right, if you find yourself in some kind of crazed state of mind where you feel like you just need to share this story, someone else's story, and ask yourself the question, would I want something similar being shared about me when I'm not around? Again, this is another spiritual principle that is found in the Bible taught by Jesus. What did he say? He said, do unto others as you would want done to you. Would you want this information shared about you to other people if you weren't there? So the question is, you're about to speak something about a person who's not around. Would you want someone speaking the same kind of story while you're not around? And then in those questions, we will begin to discover that we are pushing gossip out of our lives. Right? Why is it that I feel like I need to share this? Why have you talked to so-and-so about this? We're going to guard our ears. We're going to close our mouths. We're going to watch our tongue. We're going to keep our mouth shut so we stay out of trouble. This a couple weeks ago, before I was able to leave on maternity leave at Apple, I was helping this guy. And when you're at the Genius Bar, you just have this iPad in front of you, and it's kind of this list of person after person who's checked in that needs help. And me as a genius, I can help people with mobile devices, but I can also I'm a certified Mac technician, so I can take Mac repairs and Mac appointments. So there's this guy who no one else, because there's no other Mac technicians there who can take. So I get it, right? And it's this guy who was in earlier that day who had this mouse, as a magic mouse that wasn't working for his computer. Right now, it's under warranty, so if something's not working and it's under warranty, it should be open shut. We're going to get you a new one. We're going to take care of you, right? Apple, our goal is not to try to not, fix things or to not replace things if we need to. We want to. We want your relationship to be repaired with your device is kind of how we describe it. But when he came in and he met with another technician, it turned out we didn't have that particular mouse in stock to replace it, right? So the general process is then we'll order it, and when it comes in, we'll call you, email you, letting you know that it's ready to be picked up, and we'll make the swap, right? Well, he was not happy about that scenario. So when he left earlier in the day, after having met with another technician, he called up AppleCare over the phone and complained for hours because he lives far away and that doesn't work for him, right? So AppleCare then called our store, and our store decided, all right, what we're going to do then is we're just going to give him a brand new, updated one out of the box. All right, we're going to kind of go above and beyond for this guy because the trouble, the hassle, right, that usually happens when people complain. Don't you hate I hate being in customer service, and people who complain always tend to get things that he's being ridiculous. All right, can I just say that? He was being ridiculous, all right? But he comes back, so I'm the guy who kind of got this put in front of me that I have to deal with. So he just says, when I said, hey, my name's Jimmy, I'm going to be helping you out today. What's going on? He says, you're going to replace my mouse for me, right? I'm just like, whoa, okay. I generally don't like people telling me what I'm going to do for them, but okay, well, let me figure out what's going on. So I got all this information that I shared with you and hear about what's going on. So I start to process it. I grab a brand new one. It's updated. It's more expensive, but we're going to give you a brand new one right off the shelf, one of these newer models. And I have to take his old one. I have to put it in the box so I can send it back to Apple. Well, as I'm taking it away in the box and just giving him the old one, he starts to, complain and say, aren't you going to give me the box? And, in my mind, I'm thinking, did you come in with a box? Why should I give you a box, right? But no, I have to send this back in the box, so I can't get you a box. But I can give you a bag if you like. Would you like a bag? And he disgruntledly says yes, and as I'm walking away, he starts to utter these, mumble these words about Apple poor customer service, right? Kind of goading me with these remarks that sometimes people who are mean just like to do, right? And I'm thinking, man, you're lucky I'm not cooking your burger, buddy, right? Because if I was cooking your burger, I might be making national news for what I put on the receipt, right? So I go and I get the bag and I put it in and I say, thank you so much for being here today. Hope you have a great day. And he, as he's walking away, very, kind of rudely says, I'm going to have a better day than you are, right? And I just kind of paused for a second. I said, I doubt it, but you can try, right? As he's walking away and he leaves, and one of my coworkers was right there and kind of starts busting out laughing. And for the rest of the day, my coworker just kept telling that story, what I'd said to the customer, to everybody, right? But as I'm telling you this story, right, it begs this question: why are we so enthralled in a story of some guy that we don't even know? Right? It's because we're gossiping. See what I just did to you there? Right? The problem with gossiping, criticizing, complaining, lying, all of the things that we've been talking about this month, the problem with our big fat mouth isn't really our big fat mouth, right? It's our broken and sin-stained heart. Because Jesus said, out of the overflow of the mouth, out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. It's our broken and sin-stained heart. And here's why gossip is so addictive, like little morsels, is that we just can't stop popping them in our mouth. And gossip claims this, and you may want to write this down. Gossip claims that I am strong because they are weak. As I'm telling this story, I'm claiming, I am strong because that person is weak. But the gospel, forward point, why we're here, the gospel proclaims, I am weak, but he is strong. Right? We share gossip because we hope that for just this moment, right, if I can just talk about someone else and their lack of manners, or their poor decision making, or their this financial distress that they're in, right, then I don't have to talk about mine. And gossip claims that I am strong and they are weak, but the gospel proclaims that we are weak, but he is strong. When we recognize who we are, or more importantly, whose we are, it changes our heart, right? And we begin to realize that we are fully and wonderfully made, right? The Bible tells us that we are God's workmanship, his poem to do good works. God says that he started this good work in us and that he's going to be faithful and just to complete it. That, you were made for a purpose, on purpose. And less are we going to need to reach for sharing, these other people's stories to make myself look good, as we begin to grow in the security of who he says that we are. Life is going to begin to flow out of us into other people as we speak truth and we speak love. And God is going to begin to use us to be his redemption for each other and for the neighborhood and for the city. Because gossip, what does it do? It claims that I am strong and they are weak. But the gospel proclaims that we are weak and he is strong. Will you bow your heads with me this morning as we wrestle with this rampant disease in our culture and in our lives? And there's a good chance that even us as a body of faith that we try to not be a part of gossip. But the reality is, even this week in a hospital bed room with my wife and I went to the bathroom and thoughts began to come into my head about different people and maybe why they didn't come and visit or come and meet the new baby. And I began to realize in that moment, man, how easy is it for us to even gossip to ourselves? We begin to tell stories about other people to ourselves. Because in our hearts, we're broken and we're stained. So this morning, we want to push out the insecurities. We want to push out the different things that have us clawing for being able to one-up the people around us and try to prove that we're strong, because we need to embrace our identity of being weak. Because it's only in living in that true identity will God be able to come in and make himself strong for us. So God, here we are this morning, having gone through a whole week of ways that we use our mouths and the words that we speak all too often at the expense of other people. And we need you to come and heal these wounds where we've been the recipients of the lying, the criticizing, the gossip. And as these stories, these moments in your past, maybe some that have been blocked out and tried to be forgotten, just come back to your mind where you've been hurt, and in the back of the mind still always kind of holding you back. Would you this morning just allow God to come into those stories and bring healing? And if you're here this morning and you can think of a moment, a story, an exact thing that you heard that brought this pain into your life, I'm just going to ask you to put your hands on your heart, and we're going to ask God to heal, to do some healing here this morning. Maybe it was a lie, maybe it was some kind of criticism, maybe it was some kind of story they told around your back and it got to you. But it broke something inside of you. Just with your hands on your heart, God, you see every single person. Just humbly admitting before you the pain that has been caused. And God, we come before you this morning as people in our culture who are constantly feeling like we need to step on other people to show that we're strong. God, would you come into these stories and begin to rewrite the words and the mess and the confusion and the pain, that you would come in and your Holy Spirit begin to work to rewrite the story, that it would no longer be a time that we keep in the dark and we keep it locked away, but we would embrace it. We would rejoice in our weakness, that in that moment it was you who came down and made yourself strong. And now it doesn't matter what happens to us as we embrace our identity of being weak but strong in you. God, that these would become trophies that we put on our mantle, that we begin to share with the people around us, to say, man, this was something that tore me and broke me on the inside, but because of God, but because of nothing else, the only thing, God came into my life and healed me of this pain, and now I can stand here before you and say, this has no power over me. And that can spread to one person after the other, and your redemption can begin here in the lives of people who you're beginning to heal. So God continues to heal hearts here this morning. If you're here this morning and a relationship with Jesus has never been much more than just a ritual or a routine that you maybe go to a building sometimes on Sunday mornings, this morning the challenge is for you is to enter into this daily walk with a God who wants to love and interact with you every moment. It's not about being here on a Sunday morning It's not about being at a life group. Those things are going to help you along the way, but it's about acknowledging the Creator who wants to do and be strong for you in your life. And maybe this morning there's a new path for you to walk out in your relationship. No more rituals, but a relationship. No more religion, but a relationship with your Creator who wants to fill you with purpose. So this morning for you, the call is just in your heart just to proclaim, God, heal me from all that preconceived ideas that I had about what it meant to follow you, and help me to enter into this new relationship with you. Forgive me for the things that I've done that have separated us, that have caused this gap between us. And I accept your gift of relationship. And I want to be used by you and the purposes that you created for to bring change into the people's lives around me, into the city. God, would you use all of us here at Ford Point to be your change agents? Right, that people would, instead of beginning to look at us as being the people who are judgmental and critical, right, the stories that are begin to be spread. Man, have you heard about those people who just everywhere they go, they're speaking hope, the hope dealers into their schools. They sacrifice their time to go work and help the people who live under bridges. And every time I hear the name Ford Point, I just see people who are sacrificing their own life to help other people. They just walk in this weakness, and it just makes them look so strong because of, God, what you're doing through us. So God, have your way. Continue to just speak and heal. Continue to give purpose to people, that they would begin to walk out and know that there's a specific way that you created them, things to do that we want to be a part of here at Ford Point, to just spread into the city. Continue to use us. We love you so much. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Ford Point, for being here this morning. Maybe you have some conversations you need to have with some people. Maybe you need to talk to Stephen or I just about some things going in your life that you'd like some prayer for, that we can stand with you for. Whatever the case may be, don't leave this morning without responding. However it is that you feel in your spirit God is asking you to do. Because sometimes it just takes your one act of faith step towards that to catapult your life into a direction you never believed or imagined could be possible for you. So go, be blessed. Say hi to each other. Big hugs back in the cafe. We'll see you next week. Or see you this week in a life group if you're